Welcome back. You're on 7:31 a.m. I was 35 when this happened. A real cemetery horror story I never thought I'd tell. Ever since that night, I don't trust silence the same way I used to. Not the peaceful kind, like after snowfall or deep in the woods, but the heavy kind. The kind that presses in like it's watching, waiting. You know that feeling. I didn't believe in haunted places or real ghost sightings until I stood in it. Until I walked away from it with my chest tight and my hands cold, like something had followed me back. It's been years. I moved twice, changed jobs, got married, but I still take the long way around Grafton, even if it adds 20 minutes. People ask why I avoid that narrow hill road. I say it's full of potholes. But the real reason? There's a forgotten cemetery up there, Indian Ridge, and the last time I stood near its gate, I saw something that didn't belong in any time, something that never moved, but never left. It was late November when I went up there, cold but not yet winter, the kind of gray afternoon where the sun feels distant, like it's not fully trying. My uncle had passed a few weeks before, and I hadn't visited his grave yet. We weren't especially close toward the end, but he'd raised me for a while when I was a kid, so it felt wrong not to go. Indian Ridge Cemetery was the place he picked. Tucked into the slope behind an old mining road, maybe 30 or 40 plots total, half of them cracked or sunken. No formal gate, just 2 iron posts and a faded wooden sign with the paint peeling off. The kind of place that isn't really part of town anymore, just exists on the edge of memory. I parked on the gravel shoulder and walked in alone. No one else around. I found his marker near the middle, brushed off some dead leaves, and stood there a while. It was quiet, but too quiet. I remember noticing that. No birds, no wind, not even the hum of a single car passing, just stillness. I didn't think much of it at first, just figured the air was heavy, the way it gets before snow. But on the walk back to my car, something shifted. I was halfway down the path, gravel underfoot, when I had that feeling, like someone was behind me. Not close, just far enough to make you doubt it. I stopped and turned around. That's when I saw him. A figure standing near the far edge of the cemetery, where the trees begin to crowd in. He wasn't walking, wasn't tending any grave, just standing, tall, perfectly still, between 2 older headstones. I thought maybe it was a caretaker, though he didn't move like one. He didn't move at all. The coat he wore was long, dark, maybe navy or charcoal, and his hat was off, flat on top, narrow brim. It reminded me of something from a museum photo, Civil War era maybe. I stared longer than I meant to, waiting for him to shift, to acknowledge me. But he just stood there, like he'd always been standing there. By the time I got to the bottom of the hill, I couldn't shake it, the way he stood there, like a statue placed too carefully among the graves. I looked back once more before reaching the car. The spot was empty, no figure, no sound, just that same thick stillness wrapping around the stones. I got in, started the engine, told myself I'd imagined it, or that maybe it was some kind of memorial reenactment, but halfway down the road something made me glance in the rear view. There, on the shoulder, just beyond the last curve, I saw him again, standing still. Same coat, same shape, no movement, no expression, just staring. I hadn't passed anyone. I hadn't seen him leave the cemetery. He was simply there, and closer. I kept driving, hands tight on the wheel, not blinking. I didn't look again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that same figure in my head. Not angry, not ghost-like, just waiting, like he'd followed me home without ever taking a step. The next morning I found boot prints in the grass, not deep, not fresh with mud, just impressions. Old-style soles, pointed and narrow, like something worn a long time ago. They started at the road and ended about 4 feet from my front steps. That was it. No return trail, no sign of anyone walking away. I stood there staring at them for a long time, waiting for my brain to come up with something reasonable, but nothing stuck. Later that day, I drove back up to Indian Ridge, Same cold light, same brittle air. I walked to the clearing where I'd seen him, half hoping I'd imagined all of it. But as I turned to leave, he was there again. Closer this time, just beyond the edge of the trees. We locked eyes, and for a second, I didn't feel scared, just unsettled, like I'd stepped into a memory that wasn't mine. He nodded once, slow, then turned and walked into the woods. I haven't been back since, but I still avoid that road. Not out of fear, but because I know he's still up there, waiting for someone else to see him. I still hear the leash at night, not dragging through memory, but through wood. It scrapes across the back porch, slow and steady, like something outside knows the pattern of my steps. I live alone now, out near the cliffs, and there's nothing out there except the wind, the trees, and whatever came through that old gate. I haven't told anyone what really happened to Bruno, not the police, not my neighbors, because if I say it out loud, it becomes real. The sound, the thing that waits, the forest that was never ours to walk through. I moved to the coast after my divorce, small rental cabin near Crescent City, tucked between the cliffs and the woods. It wasn't much, but it was quiet, and that's all I wanted. The yard backed straight into a patch of dense forest, and from there a trail ran down to the bluffs. I'd take Bruno with me every morning. He was a shepherd mix, stubborn but loyal. We knew every inch of that path until the day we found the gate. It was maybe half a mile in, half hidden behind a curtain of overgrown vines, rusted iron posts bent in places, and a latch that didn't connect to anything, just a frame. No sign, no path beyond it, just the forest, darker than it should have been. Bruno stopped cold the moment he saw it, ears back, body low. He didn't bark, didn't move, just stared. I tugged the leash, called his name, nothing. I laughed it off, told myself it was a scent he didn't like. But after that day, he never went near it again. It got specific after that. We could walk anywhere, past the cliffs, around the old trees, even circle the hollow from the far side. But if we got within sight of that gate, Bruno would freeze. Every time. Tail tucked, eyes fixed, like he expected something to come through it. After a while, I just avoided that part of the trail. Seemed easier. But then, one night, around 3 a.m, he woke me up whining at the back door. Not barking, not frantic, just urgent. I thought maybe he needed out, or maybe he heard something. I opened the door, and before I could grab the leash, he bolted, straight into the trees, no hesitation. I grabbed a flashlight and ran after him. The forest felt different at night, closer, and as I moved through it, the silence hit me. No wind, no owls, just the beam of my light cutting through cold air, and the sound of leaves ahead, like something big moving deeper in. Always just out of reach, always leading me toward the gate. The gate was open when I got there. I don't remember hearing it move, and I know it had been closed the day before. Just a gap now, leading into trees I didn't recognize. Everything past it looked wrong, too dark, too still, like the forest on that side wasn't part of the same world. I called out for Bruno, louder this time. No answer. I stepped forward, just enough to see inside. The flashlight flickered, only for a second, but it was long enough to catch something. A leash, his leash. Tangled around the base of a stump just past the gate. The clip was still closed, no signs of struggle, no tracks. Just cold dirt and something else. Breathing, not mine. Slow, wet, like something waiting just beyond the edge of light. I stepped back. Whatever was in there, it had brought the leash out on purpose, like it wanted me to follow. I didn't. I turned and ran, branches catching my arms, not stopping until I hit the road again. And even then, I didn't feel alone. I went back the next morning. Broad daylight, fresh batteries, clear head. But there was no leash, no open gate, just trees and fog and the old rusted frame like it had never moved. I called the local animal control, filed a report, walked the woods for days. Nothing. Not a sound. Not a single trace. A man down the road, older, retired, said he'd lived there since the 70s, pulled me aside one afternoon. He asked where I lost the dog. When I told him, he didn't react. Just said, "Things go quiet near Blue Hollow for a reason." Then he walked off. I didn't press. I didn't want to know what he meant. A few weeks passed. I stopped searching, but some nights, I still hear the leash dragging across the porch boards. Soft, slow, like something pacing, waiting to be let in. And I know it's not Bruno, not really, but I still keep the door locked, and I never, ever look through the peephole. My sister used to whisper across the fence, but there was no one there. Just weeds, rusted chain link, and the edge of a cemetery older than the house itself. She was 5, too young to lie well, too calm to scare easy, and yet every afternoon she stood at the same spot, talking to someone named Liam, said he wore brown, said he never blinked. I thought it was just her imagination, until I looked through the slats one evening and felt something looking back. Not a child, not anything alive, just eyes waiting behind the stones. Our parents weren't the superstitious type. Mom called the cemetery peaceful, said it was better than having neighbors behind us. Dad patched the fence and put in a motion light just in case. But the light never caught anything, and the fence didn't stay patched for long. My sister Ellie started spending more time near the back of the yard, just sitting cross-legged in the grass, talking under her breath. I asked her once who she was playing with, and she looked up and said, "Liam, he's lonely, but he's nice." I laughed it off. It's what you do when a 5-year-old says something weird. But it didn't stop. Every day after school, same spot, whispering, listening. One afternoon I caught her drawing on the patio with chalk. She made a figure with no eyes, all brown, and wrote Liam underneath in shaky letters. When I asked why he had no eyes, she said, "Because he buried them." Then she giggled like it was a joke. But something in the way she looked back at the fence made my stomach twist. It started with the dirt. One morning I woke up and saw small brown footprints on the hardwood floor, leading from the back door to the foot of Ellie's bed. Our mom thought she'd tracked something in, but her socks were clean, and the lock on the sliding door was still latched from the inside. After that, I started locking my door at night. I didn't know why, just that it felt necessary. Ellie began talking less during the day, but at night I'd hear her murmuring in her sleep. Sometimes she laughed softly. Other times she whispered things like, "He found the crack," or "almost done digging." One night I asked her directly if Liam was real. She said, "He used to live here before the fence." Then she smiled, but her eyes looked distant, like she wasn't fully with me anymore. A few days later I found her in the backyard near a corner of the fence, fingernails caked with dirt, whispering into a small hole she'd been digging. When I asked what she was doing, she just said, "Helping him finish." That night I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not adult steps, light, uneven, like a child dragging their feet. I opened my door just enough to peek out. Nothing. But the sound moved again, slowly, toward Ellie's room. I followed it, trying not to breathe. Her door was already open. She was standing at the window, her back to me. I asked what she was doing, and she said, "He's almost here." I looked past her through the glass. The motion light in the backyard had turned on, and by the fence I saw it. Something crouched near the hole she'd been digging. It wasn't a person. Too thin, too still, like it was waiting for a cue. The dirt around it looked fresh, like it had just come up from underneath. I grabbed Ellie's hand and pulled her away, but she didn't resist, just stared out the window, murmuring his name. I locked us both in my room and waited for the light to turn off. It didn't. Not for hours. After that night, Ellie stopped talking about Liam. She avoided the backyard completely, wouldn't even look out the window. But something in the house changed. It got heavier. At night, I started hearing scratching, not loud but steady, like something small working its way through the walls, sometimes from the floorboards, sometimes behind my bed. I never told our parents. I already knew what they'd say. Old houses make noise, but I knew this wasn't just noise. One morning, I found a smear of dirt on my bedroom wall. Just one. About the height of a child's hand. I cleaned it off without thinking. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've started hearing footsteps again, but they don't go to Ellie's room anymore. They stop outside mine, always just before sunrise. I haven't opened the door. I don't plan to. But sometimes, when I lay there with my eyes open, I think about what Ellie said, about him living here before the fence, and I wonder if he ever really left. We started filming in cemeteries because they were easy, silent, abandoned, and perfect for faking fear on camera. No permits, no people, just flashlights and false tension. But I never posted again after Ashwick. I wiped the channel, burned the tapes, and I still don't sleep through the night, because when horror is real, it doesn't scream, it lingers. It sneaks in through a single frame, a detail you didn't see while filming, a shadow you swear wasn't there. And when you rewind it, it's closer, every time. Will and I had been filming since high school, short skits, horror parodies, low-budget urban legends. We knew we weren't good, but we had fun. Our favorite spot was this abandoned church lot in southern Ohio. Right behind it was Ashwick Field, a fenced cemetery with maybe 50 graves, most of them sunken or cracked. No gates, no cameras, just a dirt path sloped at the edges like something old had tried to swallow the ground back. We'd go after sunset for better lighting. Shadows made everything look 10 times better on camera. That first night, we did a fake EVP session. Nothing serious, just laughs and static. I ran between the stones while Will filmed. When we watched it back, I noticed it. Behind me, between two headstones. A tall, pale shape. Too still. Will thought I was joking, but when we paused at just the right second, we saw the eyes. Wide, bright, and wrong. We didn't upload that one. It didn't feel like a story anymore. It felt like we'd caught something real. We told ourselves it was lens distortion, some trick of the light. But a few days later, Will sent me a photo, said it just appeared in his phone gallery. Same pale shape, but closer now. No motion blur, no background, just darkness behind it, like it had been cut out of the world. He swore he didn't take it. His voice cracked a little when he said it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. New file. No sender. Just a still image of Ashwick Field. At the center, the same figure standing in a perfect circle of dead grass. The next time we met up, Will looked drained, dark under his eyes, talking quieter than usual. Said his camera had started glitching, showing frames from videos we'd never shot, ones where neither of us were holding the camera, ones where the figure moved. We checked the SD card together. There were files we didn't record. No audio, just footage of the cemetery. From inside the circle. We went back to Ashwick during the day, hoping it would feel different under sunlight. It didn't. The place felt thinner somehow, like sound didn't land right. In the center of the cemetery, we found it. Real this time. A perfect circle of dry, brittle grass. No footsteps leading in or out, just the circle, like something had stood there too long. Will crouched to touch the ground, but I didn't move. The air felt too heavy, like it was pressing inward. He said something I still think about. Don't name it. That's how it follows. I didn't ask what he meant. Later that night, while reviewing old footage from months ago, stuff we'd never edited, I paused on a clip we barely remembered filming. In the distance, down the dirt path, a second set of legs moved behind us. Just a few frames. No sound, no explanation. I showed Will. He didn't say a word. Just stared at the screen like it had already happened, like he knew it was going to show up eventually. A few days later, Will stopped responding. No calls, no messages. I biked to his place. His car was there, curtains drawn, front door unlocked. Inside, everything was still. His laptop sat open on the desk, paused on a frame I hadn't seen before. The figure, filling the screen, closer than ever. Will wasn't in the house, no signs of struggle, no note, just silence. I didn't stay long. I closed the laptop, walked out, and never went back. I deleted our channel, wiped every hard drive I had. But it didn't matter. Now and then, when my phone glitches or the screen flickers at night, I see it again, just for a second. The shape, the circle, always watching from the corner of a frame I didn't record, and every time I try to ignore it, something new appears. Another file, another image. It's like it's still pulling itself through the footage, frame by frame. I don't film anymore. I don't even take pictures. But I know it's still coming. And one day, it won't need the camera. Thanks for tuning in to 7:31 a.m. tonight. If you're new here, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next signal.